Very good evening. Welcome to everyone. We have this evening talk today, creating a culture of transformation. We have two very fascinating speakers who will be sharing on this, and would like to just see if you would be happy to share in the chat where you're connecting from. And you're very welcome to come into camera, because then it's almost like we are meeting physically in a sense. And we would also like to just share a little bit of background on this topic. And to do that, I immediately thought of this cartoon, which you may have seen, about change. So yes, who wants change? Full enthusiasm. But who wants to change? Different atmosphere comes. But more recently, with the talks in Glasgow, someone created this version. Who wants to stop climate change? Yes, yes. But who wants to give up their private jets? Little bit of a silence. But we want to take this to a deep level, because this is definitely something that we are going through right now in different levels, in different ways. And what is it that we can do to help ourselves and our communities to bring this mindset? And what does spirituality, what part does spirituality play to make this transition easier? Because that we started with consciousness and attitude. So in order to grapple with this topic, I'm first going to introduce the first speaker, who's Carolin, and she's based in Berlin and working for the Transdisciplinary Research Group, the AMA, which is a mindset for the Anthropocene. And she's at the IASS in Potsdam. And her special interest is in this dialogue, interconnectedness, try to cultivate the consciousness, behaviors, and attitude, the lifestyle to support this transition towards a sustainable society. And more recently, she brought some of these ideas for dialogue and conversation to COP26. So it's nice timing to probably catch Carolin as she's processing what happened. And we'll also be in conversation with Dr. Prashant Kakoday, who is based in Cambridge. Background is medical and reflecting on spiritual ideas for more than 30 years, and a speaker on spirituality and health. So it is great pleasure, and very looking forward to seeing what comes out of this conversation. So if Carolin is with us, we would like to come into camera and sound, and would like to hear from you on this topic first.
Thank you very much for organizing this session, and I'm very much looking forward to this conversation with Prashant and over also via the chat. It's beautiful to see some friends from Norwich already here. Hello. Just have been there a few days ago together with friends. So the topic of creating a culture of transformation already tells in itself a bit about how I see transformation as something which needs to be holistic, and the word culture is a beautiful way for me to look at it. I will now share a few slides to just bring us into the topic, and I share my screen. Okay. So, can you see the screen now?
Yes, it's good now.
Okay, good. Yeah. So, why we need a global transformation? I think everyone in this call would be aware that we are now under a huge amount of pressure especially from the environmental perspective. Our Earth is going through global challenges and crises, and we cannot not be aware of them anymore. The way we live and created our societies have in a long-lasting way brought our environmental system out of balance. It has deeply harmed our environment. It's something which has been worked on to change the impact we have on the environment. However, since a long time, it has not really changed the course of this development. And because of that, I like to bring in the aspect of looking at change and transformation in a broader way. It points us to really look closer on deeper levels of transformation, which haven't been included in all the efforts we have done globally to change. The UN climate change conferences, which just one of them, the 26th, just happened in Glasgow, has again shown that we are far away from making any progress, despite of efforts from all sorts of countries and scientists. So I like to bring in the word culture here, and culture includes, for me, a more holistic way which we need to bring to transformation. Culture includes not only the way we organized our transport, our energy systems, and so on, but also the way we are with one another, we think, we behave, we live and interact on our planet, which means it includes things which are more on the level of our thinking and perception and worldviews. And even this is not really new, even though it has not been included in efforts to change the course of development. But it has been pointed out by scientists already in the 70s. And from there also a beautiful picture from the iceberg has been often used. And I like to use it here again to show that the upper part of the iceberg is the area where we have been working on. And that is, for example, changing transport systems, food systems, and so on, reducing our lifestyles. But under the water, there's the bigger part of the iceberg, and that includes more unconscious, not unreflected areas, which actually led to the systems we created. So here we have, of course, our value systems, our beliefs, the worldviews, how we see us as a society in connection with the environment, our attitudes, mindset, and consciousness. And these are, of course, areas which are not typically to be considered in for example, political conferences or scientific efforts. But recently, there is a lot of work being done on looking at these levels, and they are actually seen as strong leverage points for transformation right now. So the general areas of science and politics or other societal groups, there's not much experience with how to change consciousness, attitudes, and so on, and also in which direction to change them. So this actually then relates to more faith-based organizations, religious organizations, or spiritual movements. Spiritual organizations like the Brahma Kumaris have a lot of experience with changing consciousness, changing our thinking. And so we now are here in the right place to look at this and how we can do this actually. Creating a culture of transformation starts with our consciousness, the way we see and perceive and interact in the world. However, it doesn't end there. It needs to be something which is, as I said, holistic, and it needs to really feed into our life and the way we interact. So here, systems thinking and systems theories are helpful to understand how we are all connected. Like when you see here in the picture something which should symbolize systems, complex systems, and our society and just the way we live has impacts on so many levels, but also our inner world, the inner dimension, the way we think. We are connected also with our thoughts, with other people, and that reflects in everything we do. So if even one person changes the way he or she thinks, changes her own consciousness, that does affect the whole system. It's like you take one of these colored entities here and move it around, and it automatically moves the whole complex thing there. I think this is just something which is important to keep in mind, because sometimes, at least I did, when I tried to change things on the outer level, felt, well, what can I do? I'm just one person. How can I have an impact? But in fact, more theories emerge and show how even one person does have a lot of impact, and we can create movements actually very quickly. So this I just wanted to bring in as a little bit of a framing and context. And now would like to just point out, before we start the conversation, before we hear from Dr. Prashant, two things which I also experienced in our intervention at the UN Climate Change Conference in Glasgow. In Glasgow, and this is from the Institute of Advanced Sustainability Studies, created a space for dialogue and reflection for everyone who was a delegate on this conference. Everyone was invited to participate. And in these spaces, we worked on creating a safe environment for people to really open up and step out of their consciousness of having to represent a certain culture, a certain country, a certain organization or agenda, but to just meet as human beings. And my experience is that on that level of mutual connection and conversation, we are able to touch something very meaningful within one another that allows things to shift, to rethink about certain things. And by this also find more quickly the common ground we share. For example, the simple realization that we are all living on the same planet, and it doesn't make sense if one country fights against the other country, because climate change is something which impacts all of us and not just one country or one area of the earth. So maybe I pause here for now and save my other pieces for later so that we can hear from Dr. Prashant.
So welcome, Prashant. You may need to come into, yep, you're into sound now. It'd be lovely to hear from you and what this topic brings up from your side.
Thank you, Carolina, and thank you to Sarah. And a beautiful subject, and beautiful angle from Carolina. Carolina brought in the angle of the planet, Earth, and environment. She mentioned how the consciousness, shift of consciousness, can bring about big changes. Even one person bringing about change is so important in this whole riddle of our life and of the world. I'm going to emphasize this angle in this discussion. In the broader life, the word transformation, in our society, people do change. There are changes in their behaviors, changes in their lifestyles. There are certain things bring about changes. A new friend can bring about a change in the transformation. The word transformation is used in English if there is a dramatic change, drastic change, and sustained change, not changes that just come and go. Then we can't use the word transformation. So here, some new friend comes, there are changes. The parents notice there is a shift here, and a person goes into the new university. It changes. Sometimes just reading a new book, has changes. In genetics, there is a term, the term transformation is used in genetics, and organism changes, transforms. But for that, it needs exogenous genetic material. New material has to come in. And then the transformation happens in the organism. And same happens in our life also. For the transformation to happen, there has to be some new understanding, new insight has to come. And that's why we see around us transformation happening in different ways. The countries, their governments change, their policies change. People do change, but it is not necessarily for the better. Transformation happens, but it can be just a reshuffle. One party is replaced by another party. One government or one policy is replaced by another. And we may be bringing about some transformation, but not necessarily for the better. To bring about even to take on this subject, we need to understand the bigger map clearly. And once I have understood the bigger map, then my intervention, I can promote the transformation in the right direction. Just some few words on the subject of culture. I like this very much, the culture of transformation, which means it is promoting the environment of transformation. And the word culture is nicely defined. It is an umbrella term, where in an individual and ultimately the society, there are certain habits, certain likes, certain laws, certain norms, certain trends, art, all these factors, that creates a culture. So in a society, some may have some religious ideas, that may be the central core of their culture. In some other places, there may be culture of charity, culture of work, just culture of becoming rich. The different cultures in this society. If there is a culture where they welcome new ideas, education, newness is encouraged, that culture will bring about transformation. As we said at the beginning, for transformation, you need exogenous material, genetic material need to come. If it is just the same little place and the same ideas circulating around, it will not suddenly bring about a new change. So if there are new ideas, that is the important part here. And so it brings us to the level how we can create a culture of ideas, new ideas, but how can I ensure that the transformation is going in the right direction? And as we said, for this, we need a bigger map. Also, in this context of the culture, one nice insight I got in one conference, one linguist from some university, South America, she said, language creates cultures. And I was not agreeing with that. I sort of mentioned to her, do you mean cultures create languages? She said, no, language creates culture. What she said, if you introduce a certain term in a society, and down the line, down the generations, you will find it is used in their culture. It influences their culture. For example, you just need to introduce in a society. Society is quite happy. They are having some kind of a norm. You tell them there is something called upper class and lower class. Just introduce these two terms. And in a generation or two generations, you go there and there will be upper class and lower class. You can sort of introduce some notion of some kind, some new word even, and you will find it has influence and it creates a culture. And here, I very much feel the need of we being able to see the bigger map. That is necessary if we want to go in the positive transformation. The necessity of coming out of blinkered view. Carolina was saying earlier, there are how strange two nations are fighting each other. Why are they fighting each other? It is the same planet. We are destroying the planet. We got thousands and thousands of missiles destroy this planet, which includes ourselves. How come we have reached this point? Because the intellect cannot see the bigger map. We are having a blinkered view, and we need to create a culture where we can see the bigger map. Sometimes we use the term, it is the intellect or divine side. If we introduce this term, where we are able to see the bigger map, not just the bigger planet, but big map. We are seeing the journey of the souls and immortality of the souls, and our journey visiting this physical world as a stage. We are seeing this big map. We need to know the complete truth, not just slightly bigger. It is still incomplete. Say, I can see the tail of the elephant. I can see the tail and the leg of the elephant. It still doesn't help me to come with the right answer. I need to see the whole elephant. And it is possible for us to see the whole elephant. In the same way, if we are able to see this big map, then we will be very clear what is the right intervention. It may be that there are very, very simple, straightforward answers. Otherwise, it is not that we just run to achieve something and then say that we have to do something else. This is what is happening in science. We are running to invent one thing and then we say we have to it has created more problems than benefits. We have to do something else. So we may be doing the same thing if we do not have the full picture. And first we have to see the bigger picture and then intervene. I don't know how much time I got, but I just want to add one more angle to this subject of transformation.
Just maybe, yeah, in essence would be good.
In essence, okay. The essence would be the seed. The example of the seed. Seed is embodiment of transformation. You plant a seed, it transforms. Transforms mud around it and dirty, molecules. Seed takes it in, it transforms and creates fragrance and creates fruits and creates a beautiful tree. That is the task of the seed. And here in this larger physical world, the way it is, we have the option to bring about a big transformation, big change. And there is a factor, that is the seed, the elevated seed. And when we are using the word God, if we understand as the seed of what is the highest, based on the truth, what we were saying before, there is that wisdom and there is the benevolence and cleanliness, embodiment of what is good. And that is the task of God, to bring about this transformation. At a real level, nothing matters. All the rubbish is around and dirty molecules all around. When the seed is powerful, it takes in everything and transforms, and you get a new tree. And that is also a very important factor for us to consider in this game of transformation. Thank you.
Thank you, Prashant, and a lot of imagery there, very rich, and from both of you. I think we could do a series. It's a lot. It'd be nice to hear from Carolin. Any response, any thoughts that's come up so far, and feel free to continue the conversation between you.
Thank you. Yeah, following and connecting to what you said, Prashant, especially about the bigger picture. And you mentioned also, I don't remember which word you used, but I think divine insight or something like this. The question is what really allows us to see things in a broader perspective. I just, from my personal efforts, when I really go inside myself and become conscious and hold that consciousness, hold that space of peace and presence. And then from that point, or from that point to relate and look at things, things change in my perspective. We all know when we, for example, have a difficult situation, someone says something to us and the immediate response is to react in a certain way. And a good practice of which I took on just recently, more consciously again, to not respond on that same day, but have a night in between and respond on the next day, because then I will definitely see things already with a distance, with some detachment, and have access to a bigger picture in that sense, also to have access to another angle, which maybe allows me to see more where the other person is coming from. And in that very simple example, I think this can be scaled to seeing the world, seeing our society and what's going on, we can be easily angry about nations which block processes and progress, for example, at the UNF, the Climate Change Conference, or any other political developments. But we can also see things in a way that, okay, there are certain systems which kind of seem to presently destroy themselves, and how much does it make sense for me to fight against this development? Is there another way? Can I use my time and energy to connect with people who are open to look at things in a different way and create something new, create a new culture, and by this maybe really create a ripple effect which is more powerful to even transform the so strongly hurt negative forces in the world. So for me, as a practice, it would start with really going inside and becoming present and hold this presence. And then from there, look out into issues or respond to people. So maybe Prashant, you can describe from your point of view and your perspective a little bit what it is that allows us to have broader, more holistic or deeper perspective on things.
Sure, it is nice term, broader and holistic. I was using the word divine sight, the question that you asked. One nice image someone gave. Say there is a society, and in the society, one person, his consciousness is so narrow, all he can think of is me, me, me. He cannot even think of others in the family even. There are others who see me, and that is 4 or 5 people. Rest all is them. They are thinking of the family, and they think they are so amazing. I always work for the family and all. I love the family. Okay, that is second, another level consciousness. Then there are some who may be thinking of beyond the family, and we may call them patriots. And they might think so amazing. They're thinking of the country and not just a little family. But even patriots means rest of the world is their enemy. Still us and them. Then there are people, like those who met at the Glasgow, conference. They are beyond the patriotism. They think of the whole planet. They don't say make my country great, but they say let us make the planet great. So they are thinking of the larger map. But even beyond that, that's what you're asking. Even beyond that, the holistic, if we are to see, then it is another level. You are seeing that this whole physical world, this includes the entire universe. This is all part of the material world, the drama level, what there is that is all. And there is a spiritual reality beyond this. There is the family of souls, and there is a home of the souls. You are seeing the bigger map. We as souls, we are visiting this. We are the travelers, temporary visitors here. And no one is going to stay here forever. There is a death and there is an end that is guaranteed. You are seeing the bigger map now. Now, those who are seeing the bigger map, it is not that they are ignoring the smaller. No, they have a clearer grasp of the picture. Those who think of the whole planet, they actually end up helping their country more, as opposed to those who just think of their country. In the same way here, those who are able to see that holistic view, then that is not limited to the material. They are understanding the magic of the soul, spiritual magic that exists. And that they are understanding that there are certain factors at the level of the soul that need to be addressed. And if that is put right, many things will change in a magical way. The way things happen at the physical level, we can't engineer everything. Things are, and the reason is the factor of consciousness is not included in our present science. We may be planning many things, but things happen in another way. When you consider the factor of consciousness and the larger map, then you are in a very powerful position to bring about a real change, real transformation, and sustained transformation. And as you mentioned at the beginning, you might not need everyone to change. You might not need every government of all to change. You may just need few people, individuals. Those who understand it, they bring about transformation in their consciousness. And
one thing which I think is part of that, or is something which often is looked at in a different way, and I would like to look at this a little bit here. When I am with myself, and I'm kind of deeply rooted in my being. I'm present, I'm aware, but I feel I'm in myself whole. And from that perspective, interact or perceive and see things. To me, that is the foundation to have a more neutral and more uninfluenced perspective, and which allows me then to see more. But in other theories, where it's about interconnectedness and so on, there is the understanding that I say to what I understand from these theories is that the I and the you is kind of intermixed, and sometimes it's been said that this allows us or to feel and perceive everything of the other and the wider world. But I think that to really grasp things in their nature, how things really are, it really needs me to first kind of disconnect in a sense, so that I'm fully present in myself, perceive myself, and also get a sense of my inner truth, uninfluenced as much as possible from everything around me. And then in a kind of detached way, again, connect with the world and look at things. And then things look differently. And there is something about the truth of my being, which kind of cleans my inner eye. I'm not sure if I'm understandable in what I say, and the two different perspectives on connectedness, for example. Another point then which follows from that is to really see how I feed into the system, feed into the world and society and relationships, rather than and doing that very consciously, like in my actions, in what I do and say, which kind of presence and awareness do I bring in that, and how I influence things in my being. And rather than being in a way dependent and kind of dependent in relationships, in everything I do, like my identity of my work. I see myself as this and this person from this and this institute, for example, and define myself in that way. And that already again influences the way I see things. Then, because now my identity is being employed to this institute, for example, and I start to think from that angle. And this is just one little example. I can also take relationships, like let's say I'm a mother and I identify myself with being a mother, and it's a full part of my being. And that influences the way I understand and see things and interact and respond. It doesn't necessarily be negative, but it's a certain angle. And so I really practice again and again to get myself out of all these temporary identities, to feel the core of my being. And you mentioned the word soul, like the spiritual being I am beyond the physical identity. And then from that consciousness, to look at the world, look at my life, look at my relationships, look at what I'm doing, and again go into it, which is important. It's, I think, dangerous to not connect at all again, but to have both, disconnect and connect again, and then feed into what I do and say and see from that pure core of myself, I would say. I think this is the foundation for having a positive, or having a transformation, or contributing to a global transformation, from a kind of clearer perspective, uninfluenced perspective, or less narrow perspective, you can say, because that's the most unlimited consciousness I can create, being a spiritual being, being light, being a soul, being consciousness.
Yeah, nice, very, very clear. And it will be nice to hear from Sarah, your angle to this very interesting subject.
The recent point about identity feels extremely key in being able to go beyond limitations, and in order to think on a scale that is required at the physical level, but also to be able to be objective. I think it's closely connected to being secure, because we know the right thing to do, but we need the power in order to put that into practice. And when we are, basis is insecure, and certainly I'm sure Carolin has faced a lot of this in the atmosphere around COP, that it is frightening. So we need a way to handle our emotions, to be able to nurture and nourish this stability, which we can perhaps touch on when we have been able to step back from this limited and transitory identities, which ultimately are part of an ever-changing world. And ultimately we are travelers, as Prashant said. So it'd be nice to hear a bit more from Prashant, because it links together, I think. What is your understanding of this identity of the traveler, and what is your feeling about how we can have the power to put into practice what we know will be beneficial, and make the changes we need to make?
Sure. I can give another nice image, in this context, identities. If we were to see the difference between a normal body cell and a cancer cell. If we are to see the difference between these two, very interesting. The normal cell of the body, it is not working for itself. It is working for the whole organism. For example, kidney is not working for kidney, it is working for the whole body. Liver, it is working for the whole body. And so much so that if there is sometimes less glucose, less oxygen, some cells take less for itself, so that the brain and the heart can get enough oxygen, enough glucose. So this is the way our normal body functions. There is absolute harmony. But with cancer cell, it has got a different program. Its program is, I want more. It is not thinking about the rest of the body. That is all. And as a result, what happens? Even if a person has a small tumor, rest of the body loses weight. That cancer cell is multiplying, but at the cost of the rest of the body. And what is the end result? The body dies, but the cancer cell also dies. Now let us see this planet Earth. We have got billions, 7.9 billion human beings. Just let us see the human beings, and let us see these as cells of this, our culture and human civilization. 7.9 billion cells. What is the mindset of each and every one? In different form, they are helplessly having a program, I want more. Whatever they think. They think, I want more. It can be, I want more attention, I want bigger cake, I want more money, but I want more. That is the program of everyone. They are almost incapable of going beyond that program. It is just like a cancer cell. The programming is same. When the person has a cancer and you are treating, you see that not one cell remains. You have to remove every possible cancer cell. Then the person will survive. Here, the planet has got metastatic problem here. It is like all over. Everyone has a program. Seen from that position, there is no real answer here, other than the worst case scenario on this planet. And this program, I want more, is a program coming from the identities. We call it false identities. They are helplessly insecure, and regardless of what they have, they want more. And that something has to change at a fundamental level. If that is not addressed, we cannot have this big transformation. Suddenly, body will not become healthy when there are cancer cells all over, spread all over. Same here with this planet. Now, is it realistic to bring about this transformation of 7.9 billion human beings? Is it better just to drop it and let us sign a treaty and control? Spiritual message says it is possible. And as what Carolina was saying earlier, one person bringing about change has results. One bird flies, second bird flies, the whole flock flies. Big changes happens with in a herd. Just one sheep need to run in new direction, and the whole flock moves in a different place. So this transformation is necessary, and it is possible, and it is fundamental shift. The identity is a nice word. You both are emphasizing this word. To remove false identity is necessary part. When you are seeing big map, you realize that we got beautiful option. Life of this identity and unhealthy planet, that is not the only option. To keep this planet going, and the patient going with all these illness, that is not the only option. We can make this planet truly healthy, and but we have to work at another level, obviously, and that another level will include knowing the bigger map properly, and understanding that it is so natural for us to be the guest on this planet. That is what that invisible traveler, the one who is conscious, he understands he is a guest on this planet. He doesn't need anything from here. He is immortal and he is beyond harm. He is not coming here to exploit more. No, he just here is full. Deep inside, he feels full. And if that consciousness is experienced by few, it will be like it will not stop at few. It will reach others. But even those few, that is amazing to bring about this transformation in ourselves. We all like to have good habits, and we all like to to transform. Leave aside the transformation of the planet, we all like to transform. Here we understand the easy method to bring about authentic transformation, not superficial. Some being nice appears to be kind, but authentic transformation. And in that, obviously, the root of this, unhealthy cells are removed. Yeah. That Prashant speaks too much. Essence, I'm just talking about essence.
Oh, thank you. I deeply connect with the point that you connected actually identity to a mindset which is in need of something. I want more and more and more, and I think that's the core of the issues which we face. Whilst in another original identity, you can say we do have access to an amazing amount of resources, an amazing amount of power inside. And yeah, I do. I mean, the question in the chat, where do we start changing this? Where can we create this change? Is, to my understanding, what you just described, really accessing or going into an identity which is not in need of anything anymore, but where we do have access to the richness of our being. And then that is the foundation to turn around the development of taking, wanting to giving. And if we again picture this picture of the system, where we take out or suck energy from the system, and everything is kind of going down, we can feed into the system as well. And the more we learn to be self-sustained, to really cultivate our inner treasures of peace, power, love, happiness, we spread that, we share that in everything we do. And even in meditation, we can release this energy in a more powerful way. And we heard on Sunday a beautiful lesson about good wishes, the power of good wishes and good feelings. As any connection with someone, we can use that to share this energy of giving, sharing love, sharing good wishes, And the purer my mind is, the more it's freed from fear, worry, negativity, the more powerful this works, the more powerful I can spread these energies. And this in itself is probably, I mean, if we are sitting in a room, we can feel the atmosphere. And the atmosphere is created by all of us. And the same way we can change the atmosphere in the world by all of us together start to feed into the system again, rather than just taking it out from it.
Yeah, thank you. You know, I like this nice image of caterpillar. You know, caterpillar. Other name for caterpillar is a pest. You know, not many people like pests in their garden. You know, they eat your cabbage and destroy your garden. But the same caterpillar becomes a butterfly, and butterfly has a different life altogether. It deals with fragrance, and it deals with colors, and deals with flowers and dance, and everyone wants to have butterfly in their garden. You know, it creates dance, makes others also dance. Children are happy to see butterfly around them. And this is like a blatantly, we are seeing this happening in front of our eyes. And the is possible for human beings. You know, that is the real example of transformation in a big change. And it is sometimes easier to go for the best, not aiming to have a slightly better caterpillar, but go for butterfly. The aim is that, and that may be more natural. The more we see the bigger map, we realize that this is the destiny of human beings. Not stay at what we are at our present level of consciousness, but a big shift, and that is normal. We are not trying to achieve something super normal, but we are just trying to attain what is normal. We are seeing at present what we are seeing, this present consciousness, it is destructive and it is abnormal. And to achieve what is normal should be easy, and it will be good.
Yeah, this image reminds me of what you mentioned earlier about the seed. There's, in a way, ordinarily, there's no present evidence for the butterfly when you see the caterpillar. But when you understand the potential of human beings, and with this vision, a bit like the seed that knows the future of the tree. So this was very linked very much. I would like to hear if Carolin has any thoughts in it, but also you might have seen in the chat a question. What would you say for the need to engage in activism at this time of outer pressure for change? So I don't know if Carolin wants to take that up.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Heike. I wonder what your perspective is, but my perspective is that we need to be very careful not to reproduce the same patterns of the old world, old system. And often, very often, having been an activist myself, it really triggers old patterns and old reactions of injustice and anger and all of that, and really pulls me out, or can pull us out, or pull us into a smaller, more narrow view, and the whole feeling and which can be triggered when governments make laws now about corona or whatnot, which are not in line or in line with our understanding of freedom, for example, can really trigger a lot of anger or fear and the feeling to be suppressed. And I have found this whole time as an amazingly valuable time for me to see how I react to certain information, and I see very, very clearly that this is my old way of seeing things, and it takes me more effort to not get on the hook of these old patterns, but rather trusting and seeing, okay, this is the game now, which is being played out. Let me stay and observe, and let me see how I can cope with it, how I can adapt with it, how I can play as well with it. And so far it has been a good journey for me to find my ways around things, and with this, but yeah, I think we will be triggered more, and more challenges come, and laws or systems from the outer world which are not really to our amusement. So we will be more triggered and more challenged, but I consider it as a training to stay with the values which I feel I should live. And that's not a subservient response, but it is more, I think, something where we need wisdom, wisdom to see and find our way around things in a good way.
Yeah, thank you. And the response in the chat was felt to be a beautiful answer, and agreed that old paradigm is maybe needing to be challenged, and we need a new concept for engagement. It'd be nice if Prashant has any final thoughts, anything you want to add, and perhaps after that, if Carolin would be happy to lead us in some reflective meditation for just a couple of minutes. I'm aware of time, but it would be nice to wrap up with a couple of moments to reflect. But before that, let's hear from Prashant. Anything you would like to add?
And sometimes it is young activists, when they use a language, we won't forgive you, they sort of pretend to be angry with the older generation, and they might be me just making a joke of it, but down the line it can create a culture of aggression. As we said, you plant a thought, and then it has a momentum, and it can create a culture, and the planet may be more in danger of the anger of the activists than the global warming. We can create a bigger problem that way. That's why it is very wise, what was Carolina was saying, to not to get drawn into the old way of doing things. We need start in a benign, not the destructive consciousness. We have to be seeing it as a clean positioning, and then we are more useful.
And I guess this is the homework, isn't it? The practice to grasp what is this clean positioning, and maybe this is the meditation and the philosophy that we are needing to grasp. But we've definitely got insights from this discussion. This not taking posture of the coming with this consciousness that is not in exploitation mode, and the fullness which comes from the perspective of the guest. So it'd be nice if Carolin wants to share anything to finalize and also to have some time to kind of get into the experience of some of what was shared.
Yeah, thank you. Also for the questions and responses in the chat, and your thoughts, Prashant, and creating this space here for exchange. I'm happy to lead into meditation right now, right away. For how many minutes shall we?
Do 3 minutes if that, but
Okay.
yeah, be lovely. Thank you.
Okay, let us perceive our virtual space here, which we create and which expands into the universe. Perceiving my own self as part of this wonderful round of people. I connect with my inner strength, my inner power. I connect with what feels authentic inside me. I consider myself a being of light consciousness. I perceive my own dignity, my values for which I stand. And I stabilize in this feeling of the self. I am peace. And I'm a loving being. And I have enough wisdom to not get on a hook of any game in the world around me. But I stay true to my values. I connect with a higher source of power, of truth, of love, which is beyond this world of matter. And I receive pure power, pure energy, which fulfills all my needs, which uplifts me. I allow it to flow through me, through my whole being, into the atmosphere. I trust that this energy does its work. It's transformative and generates energy for all. My heart opens for every being on this planet. Om Shanti.
Thank you. Very helpful to have these moments, and like this diagram, how we're all connected. We continue to bring this like a wave to the people we are in connection with, and not to underestimate the power of our own transformation. That message really came across today, and also some direction, what we can practically do. And thank you very much, both to Carolin and to Prashant, also to all of you for creating this space and your presence and your contribution. So it is something to be continued in our own inner research on this topic. I just want to share with you a little bit about next talk in 2 weeks, the instinct for freedom. We are going to be joined by Belinda, who's from South Africa, and Jim Ryan from London, both meditators from different backgrounds, to continue this dialogue. So thank you so much, and we will see you next time, and enjoy, and best wishes on this in this journey. See you soon. Thank you.
Thanks to Carolina, and thanks to Sarah.